All right, welcome everybody here. We'll go ahead and get started. If we could stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. Invocation by Jeff Keller.
Let's all bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, first I want to make sure we recognize all our men and women in the military, domestic and abroad. Bless each and every one of them, that they can do their job and come home safely. Bless our family, and bless our friends. Bless all those who have given life and them heart and soul in the name of freedom to preserve the way of life we have in this country. God bless the men and women in this country whose labor has made this country the greatest country in the world. Bless us all, watch over us each and every day. And bless this great union that I belong to, and that we have leadership in the future to take us back to where we were. I ask you in Jesus' name, amen.
Everybody be seated. Again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. Also thank those that put everything together. The shirts, volunteers, sign in. It's great for the participation. But we're here to try to get information, be introduced to Fred, who's running against Hoffa in the upcoming national election. And also to remind everybody the ballots came out Friday for the local, for delegates. And these delegates are important because these delegates, when it comes to the conference out in Vegas, will be the ones that determine who's on your ballot to give you a choice. Because I think all of us coming from freight, those who have made it from the municipalities or know people from the municipalities in our local 776, have seen over the years that we have lost a lot. I know I was here in 2009 when we ratified at UPS Freight our first contract. And in that one we lost. Thinking that, as by our second one, things would get better. But by the concessions and agreements made by Hoffa and Ken Hall, just in UPS Freight, we lost more. We ended up losing part of our pension. So this giving back has to stop. And that's why a lot of us came together after it appeared from the November monthly meeting at 776 that our officers and business agents would not stand up and say that enough is enough. We're not supporting Hoffa, we're not supporting Hall anymore. With the give-backs from YRC and the concessions and ABF losing vacation time, and now they got subcontracting coming in, bringing in their freight and stuff. Eventually you got to stand up and stand and say, we're done. And we got to make a change. So after that meeting, a group of us got together and we decided to stand up and show the membership that we want to put someone on there to give them a choice, so they don't have to settle for Hoffa and Hall and have the ballot sent out. So that's what we're here today for, because we stand up, we go out to the barns. We have a lot of good feedback from the barns that we have visited. But from the group that's here today, we need you to talk to your friends and family members who work at these barns and encourage them to vote. The thing that I have found out over the years, even though every week dues money comes out of our pay, that dues money is not just so we have representation, but it also gives us a voice. So we can vote for our stewards. We can actually vote for our contracts. We can vote for who's going to represent us at the local level. It's not just to have representation, to keep you from getting fired. It also it's a lot further than that. When you leave your job, what kind of pension you're going to have, and what you're going to be able to provide as far as insurance for your family and stuff. So you got to really look at that. So you need to encourage your people that you work with on the road and people you work with on the dock to get them to vote. Because even though people say that they care, a lot of times they get the ballots and it gets put on a stack of, under the mail, or they say, oh, my vote doesn't matter, but it does. Because when you get to your next contract and you lose even more, guaranteed you'll be wishing that you had checked a box or even stood up and said something. So our group got together, we contacted Fred, we went down to Louisville and met him at the rally he had down in Louisville, listened to what he had to say firsthand, agree with a lot of what he has to say, and decided to put this on. To have him come up here and give people the opportunity who actually want to come out, in the bad weather and meet him and ask questions and, why should we vote for you in come October? So I'm glad to see those that showed up. We're going to have another one at a little later today. We're going to be here until at least 3. So if there's somebody you want to call after this and encourage them to come down and talk to Fred or talk to us and get involved. There was volunteer lists that were passed out because it doesn't end today. At some point later on this year, we got to get out and we got to do this again. We got to hit the barns. You got to talk to everyone you know for the national election, because that's what it's going to take to get Fred and Sylvester in, to be hot for them. So I encourage everyone to fill out a volunteer, take one with you, give it to people that you work with, get them involved, and let's keep this momentum going. So far, like I said, it's been going pretty good. But thank you again, and I'll turn everything over to Fred, and I'm sure he has a lot to say to everyone, and we'll go from there. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you. Good seeing y'all. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been on this campaign for 2 years. I ran against Alpha last time. I'm going to talk about all the reasons why. First, I want to recognize a couple of folks from Pittsburgh. Appreciate y'all coming out. Jumbo comes to all our events. It's from Philadelphia, 623. Is there anybody from any other local unions here? There's some guys from Syracuse here. We lost them. Maybe they'll come back later, but they drove all the way down from Syracuse. In all of our meetings that we've been having around the country, people have been driving for many hours to get to these meetings. There's a lot of excitement about the campaign right now. People are like you, they're like me. They are tired of the way that the IBT is handling the business these days. And they are looking for different leadership. When we talk today, I want to talk about a couple of things. I want to talk about the role of the delegates, the role that they're going to play at the convention. I want to talk about the current leadership and why we're in the trouble that we're in. And I'll start with that. I come from a very large local union. Our local union has 15,000 members. I've been a Teamster for 37 years. I've been principal officer of our local union since 2000, business agent since 93. I was a steward before that. And when I got into the Teamsters Union, I worked for a company that was non-union at the time that I helped organize, and we got into the Teamsters Union. I got fired during that organizing campaign, but the labor board got me back to work with all my back pay, so I saw the value of being in a union. And I have lived the last 37 years under union contracts, supported a family under union contracts, and those contracts have been very good to me and my family, like they have everybody that I know. We are losing that today. The contracts that are being negotiated are concessionary. We have leadership that we don't trust, and we've got to change that. The Teamsters Union used to be the best union in the world, best union in the country. Everybody wanted to be a Teamster. These days, we have people saying they don't want to be a Teamster because of all the things that they're doing to harm our union. That's got to stop. In the last UPS negotiations, how many UPSs have we got here? Last UPS negotiations, and I'll run through, and it applies to UPS freight also, because after the first UPS freight contract, they said, well, we got a common expiration date with UPS, and we're gonna use that leverage to get you a better contract, second contract around, right? But in the UPS and UPS freight negotiations, they gave up the right to strike. They never filed the F7 forms with the Federal Mediation Service, and they didn't have the ability to legally strike during negotiations. So they were bargaining from a position of weakness. They negotiated concessions. 18 supplements got rejected because the membership saw very quickly that they were negotiating concessions, they were negotiating from weakness, and they didn't want concessions. UPS just made $4.2 billion at the time, and our union was negotiating concessions. In Louisville, Local 623 in Philadelphia, and in Western Pennsylvania, the Western Pennsylvania supplement, they imposed the contract on us after we voted no numerous times. That's not the leadership that we need in the International Union. We need leadership that's going to stand with the membership and not stand with the companies. Not go out and negotiate a contract, and the biggest thing that they have to do is to sell it, and if they can't sell it, make you take it. That's not the leadership that we need in the Teamsters Union. The UPS freight guys got the same thing. They told us the first time, well, you know, it was the first contract, it wasn't all that good, but we're going to make it better the second time. Second contract's worse than the first contract, right? We have guys, I've got 2 UPS freight barns in Louisville. I campaign up in Chicago all the time, I know what's going on. We have guys that are sent home on a regular basis while we have contractors take their work out at night. Our guys are not making any money being sent home, and contractors are doing their work. Now, what kind of contract is that? Why do we negotiate contracts that are better for the subcontractors than they are for our own members? It doesn't make sense. We should never do anything like that, but this administration feels that it's the right thing to do. You know, with the YRC problem, they put contractors in there. We don't have contractors in Louisville, YRC. I run them out. We put up area standards pickets. You guys probably heard about it over at our Holland barn, and we don't use any, but they use them all over the country. And the YRC problem in itself is a problem. And in 19, when it comes up again, YRC is going to come crying to you again. And if Tyson's in there, he's going to say, well, you know, I'm going to try to save your job just one more time. How many guys are tired of hearing that? How many YRC guys are there? We're getting tired of hearing that, ain't we? And then the ABF problem, the ABF didn't need concessions. They go to the bargaining table and they say, you know what, you give it to YRC, so, you know, you got to give us something. And they did. And they didn't need it at the time. They only give it to them because they had asked for it. That's the type of weak leadership that we have today. Our job as leaders in the Teamsters Union is to make your lives better, to negotiate contracts, to make the middle class, your jobs, your lives better. We're not doing that today. And that's why we need a change in leadership. A lot of things are going on in the International today that put them in the position where they continue to negotiate concessions. First of all, they're cowards. They're weak. They don't want to fight. They don't want to stand with the members. The members are willing to fight. You look around anywhere. You go to any barn. You talk to any member out there. The members are willing to fight if they had somebody to fight with. No question about that. I see it every day. You need people that are going to lead them into a fight, because that's what it's going to take these days. Yesterday, there was a 122-page report come out on one of Hoffa's vice presidents. I don't know if you've seen it yet. It's posted everywhere. It's online. It's pretty damning stuff. But it shows the type of leadership that's going on within the Hoffa administration. Between now and October, there's going to be more of it, and I know this because I was one of them that got it started. Okay? The report that came out yesterday from the IRB recommends charges against Roma Lois, an international vice president, for a multitude of things. Like I say, it's 122 pages long. Let me tell you some of the things that they're charging him with. As a vice president, he was dispatched to talk to joint council president up in Minnesota on negotiations that he had with a company called Southern Wine Spirits. That the contract got rejected by their membership unanimously. Now, Roma Lois has got a relationship with the owners of Southern Wine Spirits, as he has got them in his area in California, right? Southern Wine Spirits was willing to give these members up in Minnesota, Local 792, a better contract, a better deal than they had with anybody else. They were this close away from getting it. Roma Lois went up there and convinced them to take less because the company had asked him to do it. It's all in the report. You can read it yourself. I'm not making this stuff up. Right? This is the kind of stuff that makes me very angry. He goes up there and convinces the membership to take something less. It gets ratified, but in addition to that, requests that the company give him 6 Super Bowl tickets to a party. It's called the Playboy Party at the Super Bowl, 2013. It was in New Orleans, right? Cost $1,600 a piece, total $9,400, so that he could give it to Hoffa's executive assistant, Willie Smith. Okay? So all that I said is very simple, right? And it ought to make you very angry. He goes up there and negotiates. The company wanted to give these members more. He goes up there and gets them to give them less. He gets Super Bowl tickets for Hoffa's executive assistant. He goes on his merry way. Well, he's going to be charged and he's going to be thrown out of the union for that because he got caught. But how many of these guys are doing that and not getting caught? It happens every day. Okay? In UPS negotiations, one of the other charges, UPS negotiations, he's more worried about negotiating with the company a job for his stepson than he is supporting the members in Philadelphia, in Pittsburgh, in Louisville, and imposing the contract on us. One of the other charges he's charged with. Now, if you read the report, and I suggest everybody read it because you get a good look at what goes on inside the IVT. Okay? Hoffa is MIA. He doesn't even know what's going on at the International, right? He's 75 years old. He just does his thing. Everybody else is doing stuff just helter-skelter. There's no leadership going on in the International. But they do talk about a couple things that he did. One, in 2013, he rented a private jet on your dues money and took a bunch of his buddies to Scotland to go on a golf trip for a week. In 2014, they did the same thing and went to Ireland. Right? Pretty nice lifestyle. That wouldn't be so bad if we wouldn't being harmed. You know, his dad used to do a lot of rotten stuff. You know, everybody loves Jimmy Hoffa, done a lot of rotten stuff, but everybody kind of looked and turned a blind eye to it because we were doing well. We were advancing in the middle class. We were getting raises. We were getting pensions. We were getting conditions. We were doing all those things. He's getting on a jet on your dues money going to Scotland and Ireland, and we're suffering. We're not organizing. We're losing our pensions. We continue to vote concessionary contracts. We got scabs doing our work while we're sitting at home. I mean, how much worse does it get? That stuff's got to stop. There's plenty of corruption in the International Union. You know, you got who I call the Boston bully. I make fun of him all the time up there in Boston. He got suspended for threatening the members. He was going to use his position of authority to threaten the members if they didn't vote for a guy who was corrupt himself. Well, he got a 2-week suspension out of it, but that's corruption. You got a guy in Ohio that just got taken out for corruption. You got a guy in Chicago, one of his guys, just got taken out, trustee, for stealing money out of the local union. That was his guy, his vice president. You got another guy in Boston who's the director of trade shows, got taken out. Actually, he went to prison, but this was another Hoffa guy. You got a guy, Paul Kenny, out there in California, got taken out for stealing members' dues money. These are all Hoffa guys. Does anybody see a problem here? These are guys that he handpicks to be his guys, and every one of his guys is corrupt. Now, these are the guys that are leading the union. These are the guys that are negotiating the contracts. These are the guys that are sitting on grievance committees. These are the guys that are supposed to be doing the job that we're doing, and every one of them is corrupt. Up to the highest level, up to his executive assistant that took Super Bowl tickets from an employer in the middle of negotiations, and they screwed the members, and he had a good time at the Playboy party at the Super Bowl. How bad does it have to get? Right? I don't know about you guys, but I'm sick and tired of it. My members are getting screwed every day, and I'm tired of that. Now, if anybody knows anything about my local union, you know, I used to work for Hoffa 10 years ago, right? I was director of the car haul division until I got sideways with him. He fired me in 2011. I don't know why he did that, but he did. But, you know, I've seen all this stuff firsthand. And I've seen all the corruption. I've seen everything that he doesn't want to do. You know, the reason why I got sideways with him in 2008 was because I told him that car haul would not survive if we didn't organize the car haul. And he told me in his office, and Willie Smith, the guy with the Super Bowl tickets, he was in the office. And he told me that, you know, we don't want to organize in trucking. I mean, it's just too hard to do, and don't know if we get to keep them or whatever, so we don't want to organize. And that's why the car haul division losing all its members, just like freight. You know, they blame all of the bad things in freight, not organizing, losing the pensions, losing conditions, getting out of the master freight agreement. They blame all that on deregulation. Deregulation was 35 years ago, man. Give it a break. That's a long time ago. What have you been doing for the last 35 years? You know, there's just as many trucks out there, just as many truck drivers, just as many trucking companies. What have you been doing out there for the last 35 years to make freight better? If you don't organize in these industries, the conditions will continue to go down. Right? When we were strong and we had organized freight, we had organized car haul, the contracts were strong because we had a higher density of unionization in those industries. You were actually going up the ladder rather than down the ladder. Today, whenever you get in negotiations, you say, well, these non-unions are kicking our ass, and we're just going to have to be able to compete with these guys. The competition's tough. You know, they're way down here. You know, why are they way down there? Because we let them be way down there. We're not doing nothing about it. We need to get out there and organize in the core industries to make the contracts better, the members' lives better, the pensions better. The problem with the pensions today is a lack of participants. If you don't put participants into these funds, your pensions will fail. It's as simple as it is, right? You're not going to make enough investment income to save any pension plan. And they're not doing it. In 17 years that he's been in office, he hasn't done anything to protect our jobs. Done a lot to harm us, right? Talk about corruption again just a little bit. You know, it not only goes to what they do at the international level, but even the grievance panels. A lot of you guys are participants in either freight grievances or UPS grievances, grievance panels. These guys sit on the committees. And one of the biggest injustices that I've seen within the last 12 months is political retaliation, and that's corruption. You got guys that sit on these panels and will uphold the termination of somebody for nothing just because they don't like the guy, just because he's on the wrong side of the fence, just because he opposes your views, right? We had a guy at 623, Bobby Curry, that ran against the principal officer just last year, and he got fired and they upheld it. Just dumb stuff. Got fired and they upheld it. He's a 25-year guy, and they got rid of him just because he run against his principal officer. Got a guy in Western Pennsylvania up at 538, Rob Atkinson, ran against Betty Rose Fisher last year, right? He's a 27-year guy, goes to the committee, company trumps up some charges on him, goes to the committee, and they fire him. It's political retaliation. Got a guy out there in Arizona, local 104 out of Tucson, name's Orlando Sotelo. He ran against Andy Marshall last year. They trumped up some charges on him, and just 2 months ago, the committee got rid of him. That is corruption at its highest levels. And I can tell you, when I take office, and I've told all of them, every one of them, I will find you, and you won't be in the Teamsters Union. Because we don't treat our members like that. Our members have a right to disagree with us. Our members have a right to speak up. Our members have a right to democracy, and our members have an absolute right to their jobs and what the contract provides for them in the disciplinary process. And nobody has a right to take those jobs away from them guys. Ever. And I will find every one of them guys, and you can take that back, and you can tell them guys, I'm going to come looking for them, because I'm going to find them, and they ain't going to be around. No member should have to ever be in fear of his job from our side. You know, the company's going to mess with you all the time, right? But the guys on our side are the guys that are supposed to protect us. We shouldn't have to be afraid of the guys on our side. Let me talk a little bit about delegates. You know, so for the last 2 years, we've been doing this campaign, Teamsters United. And the first phase of our campaign was to get everybody interested in running for delegate, right? Delegates have a very important part in their local unions. They are the voice of their membership at the convention. And it's not only for one convention. When you're elected delegate, you're elected for a 5-year term. A lot of people don't know that, right? If there's a special convention in any subsequent years after the convention, there's not another election, right? The delegates that were nominated and elected the first time go to those special conventions. And that's very important, because when I take office, there may be a special convention to try to put in the reforms that we need to move this union forward. If we can't get them done this time, we will go back and try to get them done again. And it's going to take all of the delegates to go to the convention to make that happen, right? I'm very passionate about that. There's reforms that we need to make. Delegates, when they're at the convention, vote on things such as resolutions, but more importantly, amendments to the Constitution. Now, Hoffa used the Constitution to implement the contract on the UPSers, right? Article 12, Section 6. When I go to the convention, I am going to make sure that we make a proposal to eliminate Article 12, Section 6, so they can never implement a contract again, a contract that was voted against by the membership. We ought to stand with the members. We ought to, if you vote no on a contract, right, We need to find solutions to make you happy with that contract and get you to vote yes, or we need to be the first one to stand on the picket line with you. We don't need to tell you that, you know what, this is the best we can do, you're just gonna have to work under it, I don't care if you like it or not. That's not our job. This is your union, it's not my union. Never was my union, or his union, or anybody else's union. This is your union. You guys organize, you guys get together, you guys get on the work sites, you guys tell us what you want in a job, in a contract, working conditions, and stuff like that. My only job is to make sure that I get it for you. Right? Not to sell something to you. So, these delegate races are very important. 2 years ago, I started going around the country. I started telling everybody that most of the people in leadership positions at the local unions today are cowards. Right? They're afraid of Hoffa. They say things like, well, he's going to come in, he's going to trustee the local union. Right? They can't do that. The only way that they can come in legally and trustee the local union is if you're doing something wrong. If you're doing something wrong, you ought to get trusteed anyway, quite frankly, right? That's what just happened to Rome yesterday. But they won't take a position yet. So I told everybody when we're going through these delegate talks, find out where your local union leaders are, and if they're with Hoffa, run against them, because if you're with Hoffa, you're against the membership. Hoffa has demonstrated that he is against the membership, and we don't need him or anybody supporting him talking for us as delegates, as local union leaders, or whatever. And then you got a group that is on our side. That's the group that I want you to support. Right? Then you got a group that's sitting on the fence. You guys ever see anybody sitting on a fence? I see them all the time. You know why that is? Because they're scared to death of Hoffa, but they're equally as scared against their membership. Right? The membership votes them in office every 3 years. So they don't want to really tick off the membership. Right? But they don't know how to explain that to Hoffa when Hoffa puts the thumb on them and says, why ain't you supporting me? So what I tell everybody is knock them off the fence. Find out which way they're going to fall. Right? The guys that are sitting on the fence are cowards. Absolute cowards. They're afraid of their members and they're afraid of Hoffa, and that's what makes them a coward. Knock them off the fence. Once you knock them off the fence, you find out where they're at. You're either going to be with Hoffa, you're either going to be with you. One way or the other. So, when we get to the convention, it's going to be fun. We have been having delegates elections all over the country. Now, I ran last time. I said that earlier. This campaign is 100 times ahead of the last campaign because we got started early. Actually, the last campaign helped a little bit, right? Hoffa only won by 58% of the vote last time. This time we had the extra lead time to get everybody involved in local union elections, which we've won a couple of them, and delegates elections, which we've already won some of them. A lot of them are still going on. We've got delegates elections going on in places that we never had them before, like 745 in Dallas. And we're going to win that one. That's where Tyson Johnson comes from. Tyson Johnson is actually on the ballot. And it's kind of funny to look at their ballot because our guy's got the left side of the ballot, and our guy's name is Teamsters Against Hoffa. And then Tyson's on the other side, on the right side of the ballot. And he's going to end up losing that election. That'll be the first time in 745's history that they lost an election. They're going to lose. 767 down in Dallas. That's the big UPS local down there. Got something going down there. They're probably going to end up losing that. 396, where Ron Herrera is, a sitting vice president from the West. He's going to lose his. Richard Galvan is running with us, And I was out there a couple weeks ago, and we're gonna win that one out there. But all over the country, we are winning delegates. We're gonna have a crowd out there. And it's important that we support the delegates who are gonna support our slate and not support Hoffa. And that's our message all over the country. This is what we need to get accomplished. When we get to the convention, most important thing right now for us, to win these delegates elections. After the delegates elections are over, they'll be over in April, right? Then we'll focus on the rest of the campaign. Then we'll focus on getting to the convention. We'll get nominated. We've already got plenty of delegates to get us nominated. It's not a problem. Then the campaign starts. Then we got till October till the ballots go out. We're going to win this election. I've only had 137,000 votes last time. The combined and the coalition, we had 90 something. He only won by 40,000 votes. He doesn't get 137 this time, and we get a lot more than 90. He loses. No question about it. We just got to get together and make sure that that happens. If we want a better life, if we want a better Teamsters union, if we want better contracts, we've got to get him out. And I will make this pledge to you when I'm president of the union. I will run the international like I run my local union. I will negotiate good contracts. I will fight. I'm always the first guy in a fight. Not afraid of that. I stand with my members all the time. And if you know anything about Local 89, you can get on our website. Last week, I just settled a $21.8 million judgment against a company that Hoffa tried to take the jobs away from my members. 2.5 years. We settled it for $21.8 million in back pay for the 2.5 years that they were on the street. And Hoffa worked against us that whole time. So we can have a better union. All it takes is getting in there and doing the job. With that, I'll turn it back over to these guys, unless anybody's got any questions.